Welcome back, guys. Validation Boy live stream, February 6th, 2017. Tonight, I wanted to take a look at a book I read several years ago. Well, not really a book. I wanted to look at the Unabomber Manifesto. I wanted to look back at it, read it back with you guys, little bits of it. I could make a series out of this, I'm not sure. Everybody reading books and stuff lately. I figured we'd examine what the Unabomber Manifesto had to say. So, there's 11 of you guys here now. I know one or two of you are into some of the same things I'm into. So stay with me while I turn the camera off, but leave the sound on. And join me. Ooh. It's going to be a rather slow show. As a lot of you might know, the last episode of Validation Boy live stream, I officially sold out. Which leaves me in an interesting position as a YouTuber, as a YouTube live stream host. It leaves me in a position whereby I can't really necessarily justify sitting here and talking smack about people. So instead, I feel it's the right thing to do, for me to turn my attacks towards the system that we all live under, the system that controls so many aspects of our lives. Excuse me. Now, if you guys might remember, I'm assuming most of the people listening to this were probably alive and remember at least hearing about the Unabomber on TV or in newspapers. Several years back, I had to special order this from a bookstore. It's known as the Unabomber Manifesto. The official title of the piece, however, is Industrial Society and Its Future. And it's from a former alleged math professor named Theodore Kaczynski, pronounced Kaczynski. He's Polish. I'm part Polish, I'm part German. A little bit of British and a little bit of Native American. Very little bit. But if this guy really did what he did, or what the news says he did, as far as leaving bombs, that's a really cowardly thing to do. And I wouldn't be all too quick to say I'm proud of what he did as a fellow Polak. However, many have argued that the Unabomber was a hoax. Aside from going and personally meeting the family members of his alleged victims, there's no real honest way for any real researcher, no matter how good of a researcher you are, to find out, unless you work for, the government or black ops inside the government. There's no way for anyone to really find out if this story was true. And just like a very valued guest of mine in the chat, which we'll get to in just a second, noted, with all the false flags that have been happening in recent years, and the fact that as we go back in history, we find that a lot more of the events we thought were real history were in fact also false flags. The chances are very high that this Theodore Kaczynski Unabomber character is completely contrived. There's an important element we've got to remember. When we look back in history, American history, over the last 40, 50 years, I guess, because we're looking at false flags, even though they probably go back way further than that. But if we want to look at that kind of stuff, last 40, 50 years, it's important to put events into election cycle perspectives. Now, who was up for president in 96? '96 was the beginning of Bill Clinton's second Reich, or second 4 years, excuse me. After him was Bush, then Obama with his transvestite wife. And now we have Trump with his transvestite wife. But back in '96, it was Clinton's re-election, which of course he won. And I think the 1995-1996 release of this Unabomber character might have aided the government in convincing the people that the popular choice was to go left-wing and go with the Democrat and move America forward into a socialist future. A nanny welfare state that rewards, shitbag people for doing shitbag things, irresponsible things. And I think the Unabomber character was probably little more than a farce. Meant to paint survivalists or conservatives as cowardly mail bomb terrorists. Let's see what Bullshitpedia has to say about Theodore Kaczynski. Oh, and I tried to go and find a interview. Just did some menial research before doing this show. I tried to find an interview, and there's plenty of things saying that they're interviews of Theodore Kaczynski, but they're not. They're just people talking about times that they supposedly interviewed Theodore Kaczynski. And there's, I believe, zero. I really hope someone would prove me wrong about this or can help me with the research at least. But I'm pretty sure there is zero motion picture footage of Theodore Kaczynski speaking. There is video footage of a guy playing the role of, or what could be a guy playing the role of Theodore Kaczynski being ushered around in handcuffs by ambiguous, unmarked police forces and stuff like that, or cops, or in the back of a truck somewhere. But there's no actual interviews. There might even be an audio interview, but that's not a audio visual interview. So we don't even know whose voice that person could be. So it's kind of crazy that this guy who gained such notoriety and was such a big deal garnered enough respect from what was it, the Washington Post, the New York Times or something, to have his stuff printed by them. Yet there's no interviews of the guy. I mean, there's interviews of all kinds of serial killers. Long interviews of Ed Kempers, Ted Bundys, Gacy's, Manson's, all these killers, all these people, these terrorists, these murderers, these serial killers. There's all extensive hours of interviews with these people. But this guy, he gets nothing, you know? And he killed, what, 3 people total? And he gets nothing? He gets no interviews? It doesn't really make sense. You would think, especially as supposedly intelligent as this guy, was, you would think that there'd be all kinds of psychologists and people trying to make a name for themselves chomping at the bit for an interview with this guy. And this country being obsessed with celebrity, they always allow it. They allowed Jodi Arias to be interviewed. They allowed Casey Anthony to be interviewed, Scott Peterson. But this guy just gets nothing. Why? Coincidentally, he's the guy that's talking about tearing down the left-wing system or the leftism of modern industrial society. And he's the one that doesn't get to get the interview. See, that being said, it almost makes you wonder if it just supports my earlier argument, my earlier theory. Makes you wonder if they want to silence this guy so that you believe he is real. And that you believe that what he said might have been a threat to them. Let's see what Bullshitpedia has to say about Ted Kaczynski. Born May 22nd, 1942, also known as Unabomber, is an American anarchist and domestic terrorist, allegedly. A mathematical prodigy, allegedly. He abandoned a promising academic career in 1969, then between 1978 and 1995, killed 3 people and injured 23 others in a nationwide bombing campaign targeting people involved with modern technology. In conjunction with this campaign, he issued a wide-ranging social critique opposing industrialization and modern technology and advancing a nature-centered form of anarchism. Okay, I don't see anything too crazy about that. Kaczynski was born and raised in Evergreen Park, Illinois. While growing up in Evergreen Park, he was a child prodigy, excelling academically from an early age. Accepted into Harvard at 16. Earned an undergraduate degree. Then earned a PhD in math from the University of Michigan. In 1967, he became an assistant professor at UC Berkeley and then resigned 2 years later. Here's another little thing that the system likes to throw in there in this mysterious tale of the Unabomber. They say, as a Harvard undergraduate, Kaczynski was among 22 students who were research subjects in ethically questionable experiments conducted by psychology professor Henry Murray from 1959 and 1962. In 1971, he allegedly moved to a remote cabin without electricity or running water in Lincoln, Montana, where he lived as a recluse while learning survival skills in an attempt to become self-sufficient. Oh, the horror of someone becoming self-sufficient. What a fucking demon this guy must have been. Okay. 17 years after the beginning of his mail bomb campaign, Kaczynski sent a letter to the New York Times and promised to desist from terrorism if the Times or the Washington Post published his manifesto titled Industrial Society and Its Future, in which he argued that his bombings were extreme but necessary to attract attention to the erosion of human freedom necessitated by modern technologies requiring large-scale organization. Well, the fact that there's no interview footage of this guy, and the fact that his campaign took place during the Clinton re-election cycle tells me quite a bit. Now, as a right-leaning, Wild West American kind of guy that I am, I don't like socialism. I don't like popping out kids just so the state can buy me computers and shit like that. I'm not into that kind of stuff. But being that kind of guy that I am, thinking that everyone has a right to earn and keep what they earn, I gotta admit, I was interested to hear what this guy was saying back then, and I think his book, his manifesto here, merits a look, even though I think it might be fake. Some of the stuff that's said in the book is rather truthful. It's pretty solid truth. However, he misspells a lot of shit in there. It's poorly written. And those are other reasons I believe it could be fake. It could be the system creating this thing to show big city, liberal, communist, socialist, child popping fucking kids how crazy and angry, this right-wing white guy, freedom anarchist, survivalist was stupid, or illiterate, or just kind of foolish and looking childish. Regardless of all that, I still think it's worth some of it being read into YouTube. Stick with me. I'm only going to turn off the camera. Oh yeah. Got 13 viewers. I'm definitely not as popular as a guy as I used to be, or as I was, because of the fact that I'm trying to give up on the drama. I don't want to be like the little girls I see running around trying to feed off each other's channels to grow their audience. Okay. Here we go, guys. Let's check out the introduction. All right. It's sectioned off into these chapters, numbered chapters, but the chapters are really only like a paragraph or two long. So number 1, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. They have greatly increased the life expectancy of those of us who live in advanced countries, but they have destabilized society, have made life unfulfilling, have subjected human beings to indignities, have led to widespread psychological suffering in the third world, to physical suffering as well, and have inflicted severe damage on the natural world. Okay. The continued development of technology will worsen the situation, obviously. It will certainly subject human beings to greater indignities and inflict greater damage on the natural world. It will probably lead to greater social disruption and psychological suffering, and it may lead to increased physical suffering, even in advanced countries. Here we go. It's starting to get interesting. The industrial technological system may survive, or it may break down. If it survives, it may eventually achieve a low level of physical and psychological suffering, but only after passing through a long and very painful period of adjustment, and only at the cost of permanently reducing human beings and many other living organisms to engineered products and mere cogs in the social machine. This is 1995, written in the 80s or something, probably, allegedly. Furthermore, if the system survives, the consequences will be inevitable. There is no way of reforming or modifying the system so as to prevent it from depriving people of dignity and autonomy. Okay. Chapter 3. If the system breaks down, the consequences will still be very painful, but the bigger the system grows, the more disastrous the results of its breakdown will be. So, if it is to break down, it had best break down sooner rather than later. Number 4, okay, now this is Ted Kaczynski. According to the mainstream story, this is Ted Kaczynski claiming that he's part of a group when in reality he wasn't part of any group. It's just that he was saying we and us to make his point seem stronger, as if there's some group out there that all agrees with everything he says exactly. Number 4, we therefore advocate a revolution against the industrial system. This revolution may or may not make use of violence. It may be sudden, or it may be a relatively gradual process spanning a few decades. We can't predict any of that. But we do outline, in a very general way, the measures that those who hate the industrial system should take in order to prepare way for a revolution against that form of society. This is not to be a political revolution. Its object will be to overthrow not governments, but the economic and technological basis of the present society. Okay, then he starts talking about the psychology of modern leftism. Now, this part's actually pretty good. I think I'm just going to go ahead and read it straight through for you guys. It's pretty funny. It's pretty interesting. But before we do that, I almost forgot. Let's do a quick shout out and follow the tradition and do a quick shout out to the first 5 in chat today. Number 1, Daylight, Ohio. Number 2, Earth Sweetheart. Number 3, Flat Still Earth. I don't know if he still has his Vlad the Globe Impaler channel going. I'm not sure. But Flat Still Earth, great channel. Everybody, check it out. He's been on my show as a guest before, maybe under a different name. Number 4, we had, I'm pretty sure it was Lori Gale. And then at number 5, we had Richard Clark. And in here right now, we have people like Timaeus, welcome. We have, let's see who else. David Sawyer. Taking it easy, guys. Sorry. It's going to be a very, very laid-back show. Oh, that's the only people that's in chat. Literally, those people. Thanks, guys, for sticking around with me, you know. I'm tired of talking shit about people. It gets old. You start to realize that people sometimes just want to trigger you so that you talk about them so that their channel will grow. Not going to do it. Camera's off. Host is still right with you. It's great to have all you guys in here with me. It really means a lot to me. That you enjoy hearing what I have to say. Reloading. Had a horrible fucked up situation at my job today. Still a little bit stressed out. But spent some time speaking with the creator. Paid my appreciations. Asked for help. And now I'm feeling a lot better about things. It's just tough in the modern world. For a guy like me who always had low-end jobs, you know. The fact that like some piece of shit out there sitting there wasting their life doing absolutely nothing, being a piece of human fucking garbage, can somehow end up being like your manager and straight up lying to their supervisors and screwing you over and just being a general piece of shit and piece of fucking garbage, and can affect the amount of money that you bring home, and or put your employment at risk because they're a lazy piece of shit that's not doing their job while you're being a good guy doing yours 100%. And then they just manipulate and connive and use their position to do straight up evil. It can be pretty depressing at times, you know. It makes me really have a distinct disdain for certain sections, certain sectors of our society. So, anyways, it's just funny. The frustrations of the fucking modern world. The bullshit, the fact that we pretty much are forced to rely on this whole money system. Therefore, we have to work, and therefore we have to interact with these other human beings that are fucking garbage human beings that I shouldn't have to fucking interact with. You know, the government just interjecting these pieces of fucking trash into my life, you know. There's nothing I can do about it. It's a fucking shame, you know. It's a fucking shame. In a perfect world, you know, me and my woman, we'd live out in Colorado. We'd have a shitload of land, and we'd have our own farm, and we'd probably never leave. We'd have some friends over once in a while, and we'd smoke a lot of fucking weed, and we'd grow our own food, and we'd have lots of fucking badass animals, and it'd be perfect. But, you know, chances of that happening, very slim. Very slim. So instead, we have life. So we take ourselves down these little rabbit holes, you know. So I guess those weren't really chapters. Those were like a little PowerPoints. So this is officially chapter 2 now. Let's see, now it's PowerPoint 6. So, you know, I don't know. The separation of chapters here is, it's necessary, but it's strange how it's arranged. Anyways, 6. Under chapter 2, the psychology of modern leftism. Okay, 6. Almost everyone will agree that we live in a deeply troubled society. One of the most widespread manifestations of the craziness of our world is leftism. So a discussion of the psychology of leftism can serve as an introduction to the discussion of the problems of modern society in general. But what is leftism? During the first half of the 20th century, leftism could have been practically identified with socialism. Today, the movement is fragmented, and it is not clear who can properly be called a leftist. When we speak of leftists in this article, we have in mind mainly socialists, collectivists, politically correct types, feminists, gay and disability activists, animal rights activists, and the like. But not everyone who is associated with one of these movements is a leftist. That's true. What we are trying to get at in discussing leftism is not so much movement or an ideology as, and I'm reading this word for word, guys, so all these errors that you're hearing, it's, it can be a little tough to read for someone like myself who knows proper English. But anyways, but not everyone who is associated with one of these movements is a leftist. What we are trying to get at in discussing leftism is not so much movement or an ideology as a psychological type, or rather a collection of related types. Thus, what we mean by leftism will emerge more clearly in the course of our discussion of leftist psychology. Even so, our conception of leftism will remain a good deal less clear than we would wish. But there doesn't seem to be any remedy for this. All we're trying to do here is indicate in rough and approximate way the two psychological tendencies that we believe are the main driving force of modern leftism. We by no means claim to be telling the whole truth about leftist psychology. Also, our discussion is meant to apply to modern leftism only. Modern leftism only. We leave open the question of the extent to which our discussion could be applied to the leftists of the 19th and early 20th centuries. The two psychological tendencies that underlie modern leftism we call feelings of inferiority and over-socialization. Feelings of inferiority are characteristic of modern leftism as a whole, while over-socialization is characteristic only of a certain segment of modern leftism, but this segment is highly influential. Okay. I just remember when I read this, what was it, like 8-9 years ago? I read through the whole thing in a couple, an hour or so, or in a couple hours maybe, putting it down and stuff. Because it's only, what, 50 pages? Yeah. So I just remember it was, I was getting a kick out of a lot of stuff I was hearing. All right, chapter 3, feelings of inferiority, section 10. By feelings of inferiority, we mean not only inferiority feelings in the strict sense, but a whole spectrum of related traits, such as low self-esteem, feelings of powerlessness, depressive tendencies, defeatism, guilt, self-hatred, etc. etc. We argue that modern leftists tend to have some such feelings, possibly more or less repressed, and that these feelings are decisive in determining the direction of modern leftism. When someone interprets a derogatory almost anything that is said about him or about groups with whom he identifies, we conclude that he has inferiority feelings or low self-esteem. This tendency is pronounced among minority rights activists. Spoke too much. This tendency is pronounced among minority rights activists, whether or not they belong to the minority groups whose rights they defend. They are hypersensitive about the words used to designate minorities and about anything that is said concerning minorities. The terms Negro, Oriental, handicapped, or chick for an African, an Asian, and a disabled person, or a woman originally had no derogatory connotation. Broad and chick were merely the feminine equivalents of guy, dude, or fellow. The negative connotations have been attached to these terms by the activists themselves. Some animal rights advocates have gone so far as to reject the word pet and insist on its replacement by animal companion. Leftish anthropologists go to great lengths to avoid saying anything about primitive peoples that could conceivably be interpreted as negative. They want to replace the word primitive by non-literate. They seem almost paranoid about anything that might suggest that any primitive culture is inferior to our own. We do not mean to imply that primitive cultures are inferior to ours. We merely point out the hypersensitivity of leftish anthropologists. He says leftish. I don't know if he meant leftist, if it's even real at all. Section 12. Those who are most sensitive about politically incorrect terminology are not the average black ghetto dweller, Asian immigrant, abused woman, or disabled person, but a minority of activists, many of whom do not even belong to any oppressed group, but come from privileged strata of society. We all know the girl. We all know the guy. We all know that fucking dickweed. All right, let's see what we got here. Political correctness has its stronghold among university professors who have secure employment with comfortable salaries, and the majority of whom are heterosexual white males from middle to upper class families. Isn't that fucking ironic? Many leftists have an intense identification with the problems of groups that have an image of being weak, women, defeated, like the American Indians, repellent, homosexuals, or otherwise inferior. The leftists themselves feel that these groups are inferior. They would never admit to themselves that they have such feelings, but it is precisely because they do see these groups as inferior that they identify with their problem, with their problems. And then he goes on. We do, of course, do not mean to suggest that women Indians are inferior. We're only making a point about leftist psychology. Okay. 14. Feminists are desperately anxious to prove that women are as strong and as capable as men. Clearly, they are nagged by a fear that women may not be as strong and as capable as men. That brings me to another book. You know, there's another book that's pretty good out there. It's called The Manipulated Man. It's by Esther Villar, Villar. And if you're a dude out there that's, you know, going through rough transitional times in your life and having some angst and some fears and things about women, and you read that book, your life will be turned around. It's pretty amazing. It's very, very, very eye-opening book, and it's by a female author, and it's actually a thinking man's modern classic. It's truly a priceless book, and one of my friends set me onto it once. And it's a short read, but after reading that book, I can see a lot of people that it has the power and the potential to absolutely turn a lot of lives around for the positive, a lot of men's lives. But anyways. Okay, let's see here. 15. Leftists tend to hate anything that has an image of being strong, good, and successful. They hate America. They hate Western civilization, even though this guy's sitting here talking about how he hates Western civilization. They hate white males. They hate rationality. The reasons that leftists give for hating the West, etc., clearly do not correspond with their real motives. They say they hate the West because it is warlike, imperialistic, sexist, ethnocentric, and so forth. But where these same faults appear in socialist countries or in primitive cultures, the leftist finds excuses for them. Or at best, he grudgingly admits that they exist, whereas he enthusiastically points out and often greatly exaggerates these faults where they appear in Western civilization. Thus, it is clear that these faults are not the leftists' real motive for hating America and the West. He hates America and the West because they are strong and successful. See, shit like that getting thrown in here. It all just sounds like a bunch of weird, communist fucking, post-communist, pre-communist fucking propaganda mindfuck, put out by the Clinton re-election campaign, just for shits and giggles. because those people were decided 20 years before they became president. It was already decided that he was going to be president. He was going to have it for 8 years, and that's long prearranged. So it becomes a matter of how they want their legacy. So they stage these little events to define them as a president. That's what it is. It's all just theater. The Congress, the Senate, it's all theater. It's all fucking fake. All this is just bullshit. And all this right here is all bullshit. No one can prove the Unabomber fucking existed. No one could really, really, truly, truly fucking prove it. But anyways, it's still fun to read through some of this shit. Some of it makes a lot of fucking sense. Some of it's real fucking Wild West. But then they got to throw in this other shit about how America and the West are strong and powerful. I mean, I guess that's true, but it just sounds like a little well-disguised nationalism, to me. And nationalism is kind of the opposite of what this whole paper is supposed to be about, But anyways, this guy does seem to contradict himself a little bit, But anyways. Okay, number 16. Words like self-confidence, self-reliance, initiative, enterprise, optimism, etc. play little role in the liberal and leftist vocabulary. The leftist is anti-individualistic, pro-collectivist. He wants society to solve everyone's problems for them, satisfy everyone's needs for them, take care of them. He's not the sort of person who has an inner sense of confidence in his own ability to solve his own problems and satisfy his own needs. The leftist is antagonistic to the concept of competition because deep inside, he feels like a loser. Art forms that appeal to modern leftish intellectuals tend to focus on sordidness, defeat, and despair, or else they take an orgiastic tone, throwing off rational control as if there were no hope of accomplishing anything through rational calculation, and all that was left was to immerse oneself in the sensations of the moment. And all that was left was to immerse oneself in the sensations of the moment. 18. Modern leftish philosophers tend to dismiss reason, science, objective reality, and to insist that everything is culturally relative. It is true that one can ask serious questions about the foundations of scientific knowledge and about how, if at all, the concept of objective reality can be defined. But it is obvious that modern leftish philosophers are not simply cool-headed logicians systematically analyzing the foundations of knowledge. They are deeply involved emotionally in their attack on truth and reality. Globers. They attack these concepts because of their own psychological needs. For one thing, their attack is an outlet for hostility, and to the extent that it is successful, it satisfies the drive for power. More importantly, the leftists hate science and rationality because they classify certain beliefs as true, i.e. successful, superior, and other beliefs as false, i.e. failed and inferior. The leftist's feelings of inferiority run so deep that he cannot tolerate any classification of some things as successful or superior and other things as failed or inferior. This also underlies the rejection by many leftists of the concept of mental illness and of the utility of IQ tests. Leftists are antagonistic to genetic explanations of human abilities or behavior because such explanations tend to make some persons appear superior or inferior to others. Leftists prefer to give society the credit or blame for an individual's ability or lack of it. Thus, if a person is inferior, it is not his fault, but society's, because he has not been brought up properly. 19. The leftist is not typically the kind of person whose feelings of inferiority make him a braggart, an egoist, a bully, a self-promoter, a ruthless competitor. This kind of person has not wholly lost faith in himself. He has a deficit in his sense of power and self-worth, but he can still conceive of himself as having the capacity to be strong, and his efforts to make himself strong produce his unpleasant behavior. But the leftist is too far gone for that. His feelings of inferiority are so ingrained that he cannot conceive of himself as individually strong and valuable. Hence the collectivism of the leftist. He can feel strong only as a member of a large organization or a mass movement with which he identifies himself. Makes you wonder, is Validation Boy a weak leftist because I identify with flat earthers? Well, here's the thing. Yeah, you've seen me talk to lots of flat earthers, and I got lots of friends in flat earth. But for me, flat earth has boiled down to flat earth dogmatism. It's like a simple set of three rules, three rules, and that's all it takes for me. And life goes on past it. You know, there's more to life than flat earth. And I'll gladly touch on it here and there again, you know, at many points in the future. But I'm not, trying to be the tip of the spear for flat earth or anything like that at all. And I kind of have strange bedfellows friends, in the community. I'm friends with Jeff Stewart, but I'm also friends with, this person, that person. So I'm friends with John LeBon, but I'm also friends with this person, that person, I'm friends with polarizing people. I don't want to necessarily be all that polarizing, or I don't want to really try to be. I might end up being, or I may not end up being, but I don't want to really try to be all too polarizing. But polarizing people are obviously the most interesting. And some of the shit I guess I did last episode was a little bit polarizing. Hence my 18 viewers now, instead of like the 42 I had last time. That's okay. It's all a little journey. And I'm just going to, read some more Unabomber Manifesto to you. He can feel strong only as a member of a large organization or a mass movement with which he identifies himself. 20. Notice the masochistic tendency of leftist tactics. You mean like invading someone's private account and busting onto their show? Okay. Leftists protest by lying down in front of vehicles. They intentionally provoke police or racists to abuse them, etc. These tactics may often be effective, but many leftists use them not as a means to an end, but because they prefer masochistic tactics. Self-hatred is a leftist trait. Leftists may claim that their activism is motivated by compassion or by moral principles, and moral principle does play a role for the leftists of the over-socialized type. But compassion and moral principle cannot be the main motives for leftist activism. Hostility is too prominent a component of leftist behavior. So is the drive for power. This guy, man, I can't read this shit. Moreover, much leftist behavior is not rationally calculated to be of benefit to the people whom the leftists claim to be trying to help. For example, if one believes that affirmative action is good for Black people, does it make sense to demand affirmative action in hostile or dogmatic terms? Obviously, it would be more productive to take a diplomatic and conciliatory approach that would make at least verbal and symbolic concessions to white people who think that affirmative action discriminates against them. But leftist activists do not take such an approach because it would not satisfy their emotional needs. Helping Black people is not their real goal. Instead, race problems serve as an excuse for them to express their own hostility and frustrated need for power. In doing so, they actually harm Black people because the activists' hostile attitude towards the white majority tends to intensify race hatred. And there's a number of reasons how they're hurting Black people, how those kind of people are hurting Black people, but he doesn't even go into it. But this is also from, 20 years ago? 22. If our society had no social problems at all, the leftists would have to invent problems in order to provide themselves with an excuse for making a fuss. We emphasize that the foregoing does not pretend to be an accurate description of everyone who might be considered leftist. It is only a rough indication of a general tendency of leftism. Well, what are we at? 9:26. I think I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to review some other parts of this, I really wanted to read that first part to you guys because I thought it was, pretty interesting. But I think there might be some other good stuff in here. I'll come back. I'll talk about this book some more. I'll read some from this book a little bit more. I got 17 people in here. Y'all know how it goes. I always say 4, 5, 6 minutes, but it ends up being about 10, 12 minutes. So, of course, if you all noticed, I've left all the content from the previous shows in them, but I've edited out all intermissions from previous episodes. So if you ever just want to hear me ramble for hours, you just go to my playlist, Validation Boy Livestream playlist, and you just start at the top. And it's everything I've ever said is still in the videos. I've only cut out intermissions and songs that I played to start the shows and just nonsense. So it's just basically constant talk now. And about an hour or two after this video is done finalizing to YouTube, I'm going to clean up this video immediately too. So, if you're watching this 2 or 3 days after, I've already probably edited out the intermission that I'm doing live right now, starting right now. And I'll be back in about 10, 12 minutes. Thanks, guys. We're back, guys. Taking it super easy on Validation Boy live stream. Early February. Starting to finally get a little bit cold in general outside for us down here in Florida. Okay. I found another mildly interesting part of this book that I'll read to you guys. Like I said, there's some truth in this shit. And I feel like it's necessary, for the particular community I'm involved in on YouTube. If I just read this into the record books. And then after this, I'll be saying hi to the chat. But I'm going to read a couple pages of this. So check it out. Chapter 5, The Power Process. Section 33. Human beings have a need, probably based in biology, for something that we will call the power process. This is closely related to the need for power, which is widely recognized, but is not quite the same thing. The power process has 4 elements. The 3 most clear-cut of these we call goal, effort, and attainment of goal. Everyone needs to have goals whose attainment requires effort and needs to succeed in attaining at least some of his goals. The 4th element is more difficult to define and may not be necessary for everyone. We call it autonomy, and discuss it later. Consider the hypothetical case of a man who can have anything he wants just by wishing for it. Such a man has power, but he will develop serious psychological problems. At first, he will have a lot of fun, but by and by, he will become acutely bored and demoralized. Eventually, he may become clinically depressed. History shows that leisured aristocracies tend to become decadent. This is not true of fighting aristocracies that have to struggle to maintain their power, but leisured, secure aristocracies that have no need to exert themselves usually become bored, hedonistic, and demoralized, even though they have power. This shows that power is not enough. One must have goals toward which to exercise one's power. Everyone has goals, if nothing else, to obtain the physical necessities of life. Food, water, and whatever clothing and shelter are made necessary by the climate. But the leisured aristocrat obtains these things without effort, hence his boredom and demoralization. Non-attainment of important goals results in death if the goals are physical necessities, and in frustration if non-attainment of the goals is compatible with survival. Consistent failure to attain goals throughout life results in defeatism, low self-esteem, or depression. Thus, in order to avoid serious psychological problems, a human being needs goals whose attainment requires effort, and he must have a reasonable rate of success in attaining his goals. 6. Surrogate activities. But not every leisured aristocrat becomes bored and demoralized. For example, the Emperor Hirohito, instead of sinking into decadent hedonism, devoted himself to marine biology, a field in which he became distinguished. When people do not have to exert themselves to satisfy their physical needs, they often set up artificial goals for themselves. In many cases, they then pursue these goals with the same energy and emotional involvement that they otherwise would have put into the search for physical necessities. Thus, the aristocrats of the Roman Empire had their literary pretensions. Many European aristocrats a few centuries ago invested tremendous time and energy in hunting, though they certainly didn't need the meat. Other aristocracies have competed for status through elaborate displays of wealth, and a few aristocrats, like Hirohito, have turned to science. We use the term surrogate activity to designate an activity that is directed towards an artificial goal that people set up for themselves merely in order to have some goal to work toward, or let us say, merely for the sake of the fulfillment that they get from pursuing the goal. Here is a rule of thumb for the identification of surrogate activities. Given a person who devotes much time and energy to the pursuit of goal S, this is hard to read. Given a person who devotes much time and energy to the pursuit of goal X, ask yourself this. If he had to devote most of his time and energy to satisfying his biological needs, and if that effort required him to use his physical and mental faculties in a varied and interesting way, would he feel seriously deprived because he did not attain goal X? If the answer is no, then the person's pursuit of goal X is a surrogate activity. Hirohito's studies in marine biology clearly constituted a surrogate activity, since it is pretty certain that if Hirohito had to spend his time working at interesting non-scientific tasks in order to attain the necessities of life, he would not have felt deprived because he didn't know all about the anatomy and life cycles of marine animals. On the other hand, the pursuit of sex and love, for example, is not a surrogate activity, because most people, even if their existence were otherwise satisfactory, would feel deprived if they passed their lives without ever having a relationship with a member of the opposite sex, or whatever the fuck, shit goes on these days. But pursuit of an excessive amount of sex, more than one really needs, can be a surrogate activity. 40. In modern industrial society, only minimal effort is necessary to satisfy one's physical needs. It is enough to go through a training program to acquire some petty technical skill, then come to work on time and exert the very modest effort needed to hold a job. The only requirements are a moderate amount of intelligence and, most of all, simple obedience. If one has those, society takes care of one from cradle to grave. Yes, there is an underclass that cannot take the physical necessities for granted, but we are speaking here of mainstream society. Thus, it is not surprising that modern society is full of surrogate activities. These include scientific work, athletic achievement, humanitarian work, artistic and literary creation, climbing the corporate ladder, acquisition of money and material goods far beyond the point at which they cease to give any additional physical satisfaction, and social activism when it addresses issues that are not important for the activist personally, as in the case of white activists who work for the rights of non-white minorities. These are not always pure surrogate activities, since for many people, they may be motivated in part by needs other than the need to have some goal to pursue. Scientific work may be motivated in part by a drive for prestige, artistic creation by a need to express feelings, militant social activism by hostility. But for most people who pursue them, these activities are in large part surrogate activities. For example, The majority of scientists will probably agree that the fulfillment they get from their work is more important than the money and prestige they earn. I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that when it comes to the lies we've been told about the fucking earth. But anyways, for many, if not most people, surrogate activities are less satisfying than the pursuit of real goals. That is, goals that people would want to attain, even if their need for the power process were already fulfilled. Hang on a second, guys. One indication of this is, all right, let's see here. For many, if not most people, surrogate activities are less satisfying than the pursuit of real goals. That is, goals that people would want to attain, even if their need for the power process were already fulfilled. One indication of this is the fact that in many or most cases, people who are deeply involved in surrogate activities are never satisfied, never at rest. Thus, the moneymaker constantly strives for more and more wealth. The scientist no sooner solves one problem than he moves on to the next. The long-distance runner drives himself to run always farther and faster. Many people who pursue surrogate activities will say that they get far more fulfillment from these activities than they do from the mundane business of satisfying their biological needs. But that is because in our society, the effort needed to satisfy the biological needs has been reduced to triviality. More importantly, in our society, people do not satisfy their biological needs autonomously, but by functioning as part of an immense social machine. That's true for most people. Yeah, it's true for most people, but not for all people. In contrast, people generally have a great deal of autonomy in pursuing their surrogate activities. In contrast, people generally have a great deal of autonomy in pursuing their surrogate activities. Autonomy, all right, chapter 7, autonomy, 42. Autonomy as a part of the power process may not be necessary for every individual, but most people need a greater or lesser degree of autonomy in working toward their goals. Their efforts must be undertaken on their own initiative and must be under their own direction and control. Yet most people do not have to exert this initiative, direction, and control as single individuals. It is usually enough to act as a member of a small group. Thus, if half a dozen people discuss a goal among themselves and make a successful joint effort to attain that goal, their need for the power process will be served. But if they work under rigid orders handed down from above that leave no room for autonomous decision and initiative, then their need for the power process will not be served. The same is true when decisions are made on a collective basis. If the group making the collective decision is so large that the role of each individual is insignificant. It is true that some individuals seem to have little need for autonomy. Either their drive for power is weak, or they satisfy it by identifying themselves with some powerful organization to which they belong. And then there are unthinking animal types who seem to be satisfied with a purely physical sense of power. The good combat soldier who gets a sense of power by developing fighting skills that he's quite content to use in blind obedience to his superiors. But for the most part, it is through the power process, having a goal, making autonomous effort, and attaining the goal, that self-esteem, self-confidence, and a sense of power are acquired. When one does not have adequate opportunity, to go throughout the power process, the consequences are depending on the When one does not have adequate opportunity to go throughout the power process, the consequences are, depending on the individual and on the way the power process is disrupted, boredom, demoralization, low self-esteem, inferiority feelings, defeatism, depression, anxiety, guilt, frustration, hostility, spouse or child abuse, insatiable hedonism, abnormal sex behavior, sleep disorders, eating disorders, etc. Let's see. I've only read that much of this book out so far. I think this could be a series. I wonder if you guys would stick around and listen to this whole damn book. I don't know. I've already skipped a big chunk of it. I think it's really interesting what he's saying here, some of it. But see, this is probably a team of writers. This is all probably a government manufactured piece of literature with all kinds of little twisty traps to keep someone's mind locked inside of. I don't see how a guy who's talking about the fact that industrialization and technology are going to be the downfall of man thinks that killing a couple people with mail bombs so that he can get this not all that mind-blowing, not all that amazing script out kind of doesn't make sense. I think I'm going to end up reading through the whole damn thing on my own time. Let's see what we got here. I think we need to go to chat. Schlaminger has joined us. Charlotte 1966 has joined us. Nathan Oakley. Jed Skeptic Media. Muscle Car Rock Lover. Flat Earth Vancouver. Martin Leedkey, if I already said that. Oh, Tim Osmond is here. We got Schlaminger. I probably already said that. Wow. This chat, I can't wait to go back and read everything that's said in this chat. Let's see what people are saying. Whew, this is fun. You guys, you guys can't stop with the drama. That's all anybody wants. They don't want to hear words. Martin Leakey says, much love, VB. Thank you. Thank you. Martin Leakey says, Pete's got 68 watching and people are watching cathexis. I'm just doing my show because it's fun for me. It's part of my power process, as the Unabomber would say. And Lori Gale says leftist activism. Ugh, exactly. It's just funny. I mean, like, I live in Orlando, Florida, and it's nothing but people like that. It's just disgusting. The people here are fucking disgusting in this city. Okay? The fucking stupidity is off the fucking charts in this stupid ass fucking city. And it's just unfortunate, man. Growing up in this city, I had cow pastures behind my house. Now it's just little pink houses and shit, David Sawyer, 72nd Human has joined us. There's Chet Skeptic Media says, VB, learn to read first, man. That's so funny that you say that, man. Because the word you were looking for the other day is indictment, not indictment. Just letting you know that thing you were reading out. I want to go back and check that out. I want to redo that video. Richard Clark says. Richard Clark says, Jed, how ironic that VB put forward a hand of peace towards you, yet here you are with a dagger in your filthy hand. Oh man, I bet this just gets ugly. And Jed claims that he done those videos because my subs asked for it. Okay. Vlad Vancouver says, I'd rather watch Jed play a video game than Validation Boy, the poet. The poet? What was I doing? Was I rhyming inadvertently again? I always tend to do that by accident. I'm sorry, guys. Or a poet because I was reading out, Unabomber's alleged manifesto, the alleged Unabomber Manifesto, reading out parts of it that are interesting, that say some pretty funny stuff. There's a lot of Tim Osman says, hey Jed, De La Ohio said Nathan Oakley is a stand-up guy. These people are either blinded by their emotional confirmation bias and ignorance, or they are just straight trolls. Or, we don't really see the need to fight with anybody. I don't even want to fight with you, Tim Osman. I don't want to fight with Jed. I got nothing bad to say about you guys, really. I really don't. And I got nothing bad to say about really anyone that's part of any of this. You guys are here. You're all the way down in this lowly, tiny 18 viewers right now at my apex, right? At my peak, 18 viewers now. And you guys are in here, and I appreciate it so much. You guys are already all the way down in here. How can I have hate on you guys? How can I do it? I can't really do it. I can't justify it, really hating. After I made some declarations, Tim being the pretty damn intelligent guy that he is, he got his final jabs in and stuff, and we're pretty much okay. And I just don't have that much hatred. It would be dishonest for me to sit here and get all fired up and pissed off at you guys when I'm still subscribed to both you guys. I never unsubscribed. I just want to see what you put out. I'm not. I might have left a little comment. Here and there on either one of you guys' videos, just fucking around, but But you're all the way down here. How can I hate on you? You're in my room to see me. You think I'm awesome. That's why you're here to watch me. So how can I hate you? Tim Osmond says, the flatties that are left are dogmatists and don't know it. And I say, hey, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Because when it comes to the flat earth, there really is no intellectually honest position to take other than flat earth dogmatism. And it's even a superior position to just saying things like, I have no beliefs or anything like that, or it's shapeless. It's more intellectually honest because visually we observe flat plane around us. And then the things in the sky, I've said it 1,000 times, I'm not going to do it again, but flat earth dogmatism is really was the only intellectually honest stance to take all along. I figured it came to me. I'm not saying I'm some whiz, that I thought it up, but the ideas came to me. They were just, I don't know. I got those ideas and, they're not really all that original of ideas or, I didn't really hear anybody else break it down the way I did at the time. But now it's pretty much the standard for what's left in flat earth, the truly intellectually honest ones. Or the flat earth dogmatists, it's the be all end all. Richard Clark says, VB, keep reading. Eli says, sorry, VB, the trolls stormed the chat. But, Tim Osman wants to let me know that he'll be in Florida in May. So that might be, like a threat or something like that. We'll just get it on record that Tim could have possibly threatened me at this point during this show. Richard Clark says, VB, don't eat the mushrooms that grow on the cow patty. Then a lot of people around here used to do that. I didn't never do that. Never took the shrooms. Chet Skeptic says, I read for longer than 5 minutes. That was about all I could find on the immediate from that book. I just thought I'd just look at it, And there was just some stuff I was talking about before I started reading the actual book, about Unabomber and the fishiness of the whole story. David Sawyer says, why is Jed beefing with VB? Jed is like my cousin. He always thought he was smart, but he didn't get laid till 25. Oh, man. Validation boy rhymes with goy, like goyim. Yeah. VB is Jewish? No, I'm not Jewish. I'm Polish. I'm German and Polish. And I'm Native American. Are you bluish? I don't know what that means. In Jed's defense, he says, David, I had my first kid at 21. And I'm sure that Jed was probably getting laid long before 25. Come on, most guys are. Come on. Lori Gale says, no hate for VB. My fucking cat. Always up to fucking no good. Always stirring up shit in his little shenanigans. Tim Osmond congratulates Jed on his third child, who will be coming in 10 weeks. Earth Sweetheart says, I'm here because I like listening to what VB talks about. Like, no matter what it is, that's cool. Tim Osmond says, I need to get going myself, but women are the devil. And a lot of cases, that's true. Jed Skeptic says, VB sounding all sheepish. What a little girly pants. Like, as always, guys, if it's good and you can brutalize me enough, I'll just read it. If it's that brutal, if it's that good, I got no choice but to read it. Charlotte 1966 says, VB is awesome. Well, thanks so much. I've seen Charlotte 1966 in other places too. Thanks for saying that, I didn't know if you'd ever even heard of me. Tim Osmond, with a lot of grace and class here, says, you are an admitted flat earth dogmatist, VB. I am an admitted troll. I admire your honesty on the matter, truly. And part of me really, truly in my heart wants to believe that. You know what I'm saying? I try to make myself into as much of an island on YouTube as possible, but no man is an island. No. Flat Earth Vancouver says, well, if you double reading everything, Validation Boy, I want you to read this. You're a payout, a sell-off, a graduated hot potato. I think what you meant to say was, I'm a payoff, sellout, graduated hot potato. Charlotte 1966 says, VB is intellectually honest. Martin Leakey says, I don't understand the dissing on one another. Life's too short. Y'all get on, really. Grow up. Charlotte 196 says, not a shill or a sycophant. Oh, okay. Oh, Tim Osmond asks Glenn, "Did your girl like the Dell chat with me?" And I'm like I'm part of the way through watching that video, and it's just a discussion back and forth. And I don't really understand. I'm not going to say that Dell, I left a comment on there on Tim's video, and I said, "Why would you put up this video of Dell crushing and dismembering your corpse all over the place?" Basically. And he says, he said something back. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was fair. Whatever he said was fair. And I mean, I could be wrong about that. Maybe Dell doesn't. Well, maybe Dell doesn't, completely, dismember you in that chat. But like, I'm glad that you actually put it up anyways, because that would have been one of the highlights of that show for me, is to hear Tim Osmond and Dell directly speaking. But it's like you're kind of, neither of you really know. And if anything, to be honest, Dell's side of the argument already starts under that assumption. So if it was to be viewed as a debate between you and Dell, then logically, by default, Dell won, because his position is broader. His position is more encompassing. It encompasses more, and therefore what you're coming from is like a small part of what's inside of a bigger picture. So on foundations alone, Dell is probably going to end up, winning the debate between you two, which is what I'm assuming that you put that video up to illustrate or demonstrate or whatever it is. David Sawyer says VB has proven effective in other areas, like exposing the lie system. forget all these fools and put your mind into nationalism. No, I mean, I did a pretty successful video on the Christina Grimmie shooting hoax, and I did a pretty successful video on the Pulse shooting hoax payouts. That was just me analyzing an article from the Orlando Sentinel and just putting my take on it. And, it was rather successful. And then the Christina Grimmie shooting hoax video I did, it's loaded with speculation, but it's very, very interesting. A lot of people find it interesting. It's got a lot of views. And then my most successful video ever is just me sarcastically reading through CNN.com's article on the return of Scott Kelly from the ISS. And I read it onto YouTube, or made a video and put it out on YouTube a day or two before the day he returned. And that video freakishly has 22,000 hits. Freakish. It's by far my most successful video. And it's really not much of a video at all. It's just about timing when you want to, make an impact and judge someone's impactfulness by the view counts that they're going to get. Well, that would be my most successful one. And that being said, 22,000 hits is really not jack shit. It ain't jack shit. There's people out there that are like, flat earth channels that I've never even talked to them or anything like that, or don't even know anything about them. And they got videos with like 350,000 hits, 2 million hits, stuff like that for their flat earth documentaries. And I haven't even watched those, because you don't really need to, there's not really. Jed Skeptic says, "Don't make me feel guilty, VB." I don't know about what. Probably when I was saying nice stuff. Charlotte 1966 says, VB, don't take Oakley's advice to take the moral high ground when he's a certified psychopath. Tim Osmond says, I do really feel that way, VB. I would rather someone admit that they are a dogmatist than run around spewing garbage pseudoscience as if it's truth. Yeah, because I'm not proposing any pseudoscience. I'm only saying I got two major foundations. I'm saying the visible world around me is flat. Okay, I don't. When I go to the beach, or out, I've been out in Colorado. I've been places, and if something's supposed to go over a curve in front of you, how come it doesn't go to the curve in the side of you? It's visibly it's flat. Okay, I think we all agree on that. And then secondly, the second point is, since we can't touch anything that's in the sky, we can't use anything from the sky we can't consider that a consistent variable. Therefore, nothing in the sky logically can matter to the argument being made. So, yes, I am claiming that the visible Earth is flat. That's my claim. And then, secondly, I'm also demonstrating the absolute truth that since the sky is literally intangible, it therefore cannot be used to make any assertions whatsoever against the flat Earth that I'm visibly claiming to see. And that's the end of flat dogmatism. I'm a flat earther for life. That's it. That's not going to change. And not in our lifetimes or whatever. No one's going to space. So flat Earth. David Sawyer says Jed is very sexy. Tim Osmond says, you missed my offer earlier. Do you need some Timmy dick pics to like me again? At one point, I made a false claim to Jed that, or I misunderstood something and I maybe read something somewhere and was very, very loosely based on a true story about something I said to Jed about Tim Osmond threatening to send me dick pics. But it was all in good jest, or when Tim was saying it to whoever he was saying to, and it was an inaccuracy. So I'll apologize to you directly, Jed Skeptic Media, for that. I haven't had contact with Nathan Oakley in a very, very long time. I know he's in here or was in here. Got 18 viewers now, But yeah, like I said before, Oh, here goes Charlotte 1966 saying, "Come on, VB, back to the dark side. Don't listen to Patty." What makes y'all think I'm listening to Patty? Just because I decided, um, that I didn't want to have holy, or not holy, but largely unprovable claims about specific other people up as videos on my YouTube channel. Sorry, I felt this heat and this dark energy coming at me from the hole that I was getting dug into, pulled into with a group of people recently, and it was very unnecessary to me to keep going in that direction. And so deciding that I need to make a couple changes and have a little bit more integrity doesn't mean I've teamed up with anybody or I'm listening to anybody. You don't, I was offered interviews in certain places, and I decided to turn it down. Turn them down. Whatever. I'm not going to say who. It's probably not who you all think. And it just to hold my ground and to show everybody out here that I'm just an individual and I'm just doing this for my hobby, and it's fun for me. And if I were to ever meet any of these people in real life, I would hope that all these bad vibes that I've had with people wouldn't really be there, because that would suck. It would suck for both people. You never know what could happen. The world's a dangerous place. You know what I'm saying? And I don't leave my house much. So you be coming to me. Let's go back to chat. Schlominger says, so great, VB. Thanks for the stream. Great, Lori, Richard, Rock, David, Tracy, Martin, and Peeps. Don't fight each other. Fight the lies. Yeah. I mean, if we did if everybody in this put all of our resources together, if somehow we got Tim and Jed and Martin Liedtke and even Poncho P and myself and Earth Sweetheart and Jeff Stewart and Richard Clark and Glenn and Nathan and Antonio and Patricia and Mark and David and Synthetic Dread, Issa Mahal. I mean, I could sit here and name names all night. You know, if we could all of us for real join up against one specific thing, we would lay some serious fucking smackdown on the world. We really would. If all of us were just on the same fucking page and we all put all of our resources together and brought anything that we could to the table, some shit we might have some fucking profound effect on the world. I just don't expect something like that to happen. Jeb Skeptic says, weird, VB. You're very weird. Tim Osman says, older women love my baby face. That's true. You know, I delivered to it was like a old women's home or something. I don't know, or like a recreation center. And they were all there having their luncheon and they're like, you know, in their walkers and chairs and stuff. And I came in there and that day I'd happened to have a baby face shave and it surrounded by little old ladies like in their 90s and stuff, you know, and they were just like so happy to see a tall guy with a baby face shave. And, you know, it wasn't awkward. They were just being very grandmotherly and stuff. It was just a lot of fun. And I felt like, wow, you know, I just lightened up a bunch of people's day, you know, or something. Jed Skeptic says VB joined the Hooga Pooga potato crew, but I didn't. Glenn says the Hookah Hookah Club is owned and operated by Jeff Stewart. Oh yeah, all this talk about Donald Trump and stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure that when I look at Donald Trump's wife, that's pretty much. I think that could be a man. I mean, I don't want to sound like Jungle Surfer and like all these people, but like we almost know almost for a fact that Michelle Obama is really Manchelle Obama. We know that that's true. I mean, the shoulders, the whole thing, the package, many times and shit photographed, you know. But and then Joan Rivers coming out and directly saying, "Oh, everyone knows that Michelle Obama is a man in drag and that Michelle Obama is a transvestite." On camera saying that, okay. And Eureka, look at her again. Look at a picture of Michelle. Oh, fuck, what were we thinking? Obviously, that's a fucking man. And so I think the same thing might go for Donald J. Trump's wife too. You know, I don't know. You know, people can say, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know. But if that's not a man, then that is one really unfortunate woman to be looking so damn manly, you know. And I mean, I guess there's not much really wrong with that, but like, I want people to think about it before they go around thinking, yeah, at least the president, you know, the president might suck, but at least he's got a hot wife. Please don't disgrace yourself. Don't dishonor yourself. Take a closer look at Melania Trump. Okay. You know, some of them hide it, you know, some of them put it right in the front, like a male Clooney. A male. Anyways, what do we got here? 1022. Let's see here. Got about 15 minutes left. I think I'm going to take 5 minutes. This is all going to be edited out. So within a day or two, if you're watching this video within a day or two of its release, these intermissions are all going to be edited out. And I'll see you guys. I'm just going to have me one little cigarette. It's going to be about 4 or 5 minutes. See you soon. Okay, we're back, guys. I only got a few minutes left. I'm just going to visit with chat. Let's see. Russell Sclafani has joined us and says, titty sprinkles. Lori Gale says she's eating deer right now. Well, she hunted it and she's going to eat it. I mean, Flat Still Earth says, living near the Gulf, now I've become a huge fan of fresh fish. Good, good. There's an important comment I got to get back to up here. Wow. You guys are going on about veganism. Well, there's still something up here that I got to read. Here we go. Jed Skeptic Media says, VB, you have to tell all these fuckers tonight to fuck off. You're coming back to the globe, the cool side, the young smart people, not these shriveled up never has-beens. And then Lori Gale says, VB has such a nice chill energy. And Muscle Car Rock Lover says, I give the potatoes and their minions 2 months and they are finished. No money to pay crisis actors for a failed psyop. Then we can get some real truth work done. Well, what kind of truth work? More videos on YouTube? Or are we going to go places like Dell wants to? Are we going to get money together like Matt Boypower wants to? Who are we going to give the money to? Who are we going to trust? See, it's all so fucking futile, you know? Especially us, we live in the damn northern hemisphere. You know how far that journey really is for the people who care? The people in the southern hemisphere don't even probably care that much. You know, maybe some Australians and stuff, but nobody down there is not doing anything. You know, there's no like Southeast Asian people going on journeys to prove that the earth is a globe or flat or whatever. Jet Skeptic says Nathan has one eye an inch higher than the other. It's freaky. Oh man, come on. Tim Osmond says he's all down with hunting and using every part and appreciating the animal. Yeah, there's a lot to that, you know. There's a lot to that. And especially if you're someone who is like what the supposed Unabomber was, you know, a survivalist who lives off the land, you know. Tim says, haha, he could only go 20 minutes without drama. He loves it. He did Flat Earth Top Brass video. Come on. Yeah, I did do all that. And what I'm trying to do now is I'm not trying to neutralize drama. I'm just trying to opt out of it or look at it from a subjective, no, from an objective standpoint. Muscle Car Rock Lover says, sardines, food of the gods. Fuck munching on grass. Where are we at? We got about 3 minutes left. I find that, you know, from now on, there's a big possibility that my viewership will sink much lower because of the fact that I'm not going to sit here and have hatred for people. I'm really glad that Tim and Jed showed up and that they were able to, without any censorship whatsoever, say exactly everything that they wanted to say. And same with Richard Clark and Earth Sweetheart and Lori Gale and Charlotte 1966. Muscle Car, and everybody was in here. Russell Sclafani, Flat Still Earth, David Sawyer. It's funny when you guys are when you guys are given a forum with the promise that no matter what Flat Earth Vancouver, when you guys are given a forum and guaranteed that there's nothing that you can possibly say on it that will get banned or hammered or wrenched or moderated at all. I mean, whatsoever. The only one in this community. It's funny how things end up in the chat. I mean, I could probably make a video on this. Let's see what's going on in the freshest chats. Rob S says, I'm lurking. My eyes are open is in the house. And says, the drama is so high school and is not needed. But then again, at the time, it seemed as though that was the only thing keeping it going. It seemed like the drama might have been the driving force behind Flat Earth just staying relevant on YouTube and having social interaction on YouTube go down on YouTube, rather. And I hate to say it, but maybe it was subconsciously something that I might have felt needed to be done. I don't know about any new real major advancements other than the fact that visibly the Earth is flat and that nothing in the sky can be used to prove anything under any circumstances for any argument whatsoever at any time, and will ever at any time ever prove anything for anything. Other than that, what's the new developments in the flat Earth? The fact that we still didn't go to space, we still can't go, to the South Pole. What's changed? And Lori Gale says, "What would we do without each other?" Oh no, Tim Osman striking back. Well, jeez. Nothing shall be banned. I know, brutal. It's okay. I actually realized that at one point I actually put a video out for I think it was like the pilot episode of my show, or maybe the second episode, which is now the 11/16/2016 episode, where I publicly put that out there so that people could send me an email saying, if they wanted to be a guest on my show at the time. So, yeah, I wrongly accused Jed, of giving Tim Osman my email. Serve tables. Yeah, I don't know about that. Well, so yeah, once again, I'm over by a couple minutes. I wish all you guys the best. I think I'm going to head out, Yeah, he worried now. Hey, I wish you the best, man. Jeez, it's pretty intense. I might even say you already got the big W. Laura Gale says, "Thank you, VB, for letting us have this time together." Hmm. You might not see much of me um, moving forward, guys. Just letting you know, because I kind of came on here and wanted to have my shows about people and stuff, and I beefed up on a lot of people, and then I was attacked, beefed up on those people, and then I realized the error of my ways and how YouTube is just really a hobby. It's not worth having real life drama, having to go to jail and shit like that, or having to defend my home or my person and stuff like that at the expense of someone else's life and stuff like that. It's not I don't want to play those games. So you might not see much of me moving forward at all. Other than I might do some narrations. I think I'm gonna focus on maybe putting out some music. We'll see. That could all change. I could just get the itch, to come out and just do another live stream and spread goodwill to all in my viewership community. So it's been great having all you guys in here. Thank you all so much for being in here. And this is the end of Validation Boy live stream, February 6th, 2017.